Hi everyone, good evening and thank you for joining in. We are meeting after about 3 or 4 weeks since we last had the webinar. And since then, there have been a lot of updates in this space. The markets have turned much different than where we were about a month back. And so we wanted to do a roundup of everything that is going on in the unlisted space, have a face-to-face interaction with all of you and try and see if we can answer some of the queries which you might have. So as uh, how we do it typically, we'll run you through a small deck which we typically prepare and see how we can give you quick updates on what's going on in the unlisted space. And the next 15-20 minutes we'll reserve for having a open Q&A. So I would request people to keep putting in questions in the chat bot so that we have a nice list of questions to start answering once the presentation is over. So, quickly starting off, as all of you would have known, in the last 1 month, the market has been a little choppy because of macroeconomic triggers, earnings downgrades, fall in multiples, Japan carry trades, uncertainty in the larger macroeconomic systems, changing tariffs from the US trade policies, so on and so forth. So I think broadly another quarter and 6 months from here on out will continue to remain slightly challenging from an investing aspect. If I can put it more frankly, the last couple of years were very easy in terms of an investing journey because it was difficult to go wrong. You could have probably invested into anything without too much of research, and most of it would have given you decent returns. If you would have picked it well, then it would have given you multifold returns. Probably when we have conversations with so many of you, typically a 40% annual return seems less to most people. Uh, but as we know, things revert back to their mean. On in a very long term, it's not possible to uh, kind of build out such high returns on your overall portfolio. And we've always tried and maintained a little more conservative approach of trying to optimize your portfolio bit for between 20 to 24% over an extended 10-year, 12-year period. And that's the overall thesis with which we approach the unlisted space. With this, I will quickly start off presenting the slides. What we plan to cover here today is a small financial update on NSE. NSE had declared its 9-month results, so we want to break that down and see and cover how the company has performed since then. Then we want to do a quick update on Hexaware. Hexaware is one of the companies which we invested very early on. Metropolitan Stock Exchange obviously has been in the limelight for the last 2 months since they raised money from Grow, Zerodha, Share India Securities, and Techno Services. Two new companies which we want to introduce this time and cover and show you what that company holds for us. One is Hindustan Engineering and Industries Limited, and the other is Nayara Energy. And lastly, we want to talk to you about the PMS and AIF vertical, which we at Altius have kind of launched in the last 30 days. So this is for people joining us fresh and for the first time who are attending our webinar. This is what Altius does. We are a platform which allows people to get insights and data on pre-IPO and unlisted shares. We also try and arrange availability and supply in companies which we like, and we try and make this entire journey as seamless as possible. We've been in this space for more than 20 years. We have more than 8,000 clients who work with us, and we have managed an overall portfolio of close to 800 and 850 crores. On an annual basis, our clients and our prop book deploy almost 350 crores into various pre-IPO, SME, and early stage companies. This entire chunk is into companies which are unlisted, and broadly we pride ourselves on being able to find the right opportunities, invest in them at the right entry point, stay invested for the right amount of period, and then exit when the valuation seems logical to us. Now, without further ado, getting into one of the stocks which has been into our portfolio for a very long time. So, just to give you a feedback of how long NSE has been, the first transaction which we as Altius did was in 2014. That was at about 300 rupees a share. And adjusted for the bonus, that would be somewhere around 60 bucks a share. So that first transaction of 60 rupees a share currently stands at 1600 rupees a share, which is almost 30x of its original entry price. But surely that was a larger round, and not a lot of people got in at that round. Then we did some decent size investing in which a lot of people participated at about 800, which was around 160 post pre-split. So 160 to 1600 people from those levels also have made a phenomenal 10x return over a period of 7.5 years. So that uh, is a fantastic outcome for people who would have invested in 2017, 2018 and would have kept on holding it out for the last 7 years. I'm sure just the dividend uh, received would have been equivalent to almost 30% of their invested capital. So that's how rewarding the journey in NSE has been. Typically, NSE, when we first looked at NSE, it was not in the limelight. Not many people knew that there was an option to invest into NSE, but we really liked the way Indian financial ecosystem was shaping up, and we could foresee that the growth which is going to come will have NSE to be one of its major beneficiaries. Plus, we like the business. I mean, a business which has an extremely high return on capital with very little capex required to sustain growth is something which we really appreciate, especially where you have some support from a regulatory front. There is a barrier to entry, so not many people can tomorrow wake up and start an exchange. And thirdly, network effects. So the exchange keeps on growing powerful as more and more people are on it. So typically, NSE keeps on growing because you and I are trading on it, and therefore the next person who also comes in wants a efficient exchange and therefore joins NSE and does not go anywhere else. So that's the 3-4 factors that we kind of were sold on when we were first evaluating NSE as an instrument back in 2017, 2018. Since then, obviously, the financials for NSE have grown almost at a CAGR of, I think, 38% for the last 7-8 years, both top line, bottom line. The company has done phenomenally well. It had its fair share of challenges in terms of legal disputes, management, uh, uh, defaults, but it has still stood the test of time. Most of the allegations and the irregularities which were identified by the regulator have been resolved. Uh, the company still finally awaits go ahead on the IPO from the regulator. But largely, what we feel and what we understand is the major trouble is behind, and it is more a matter of time than anything for the exchange to kind of IPO. In terms of financials, let's have a quick look. So FY24, NSE posted a 24% year-on-year growth versus last year FY20. So this is 9-month 24 versus 9-month 25. And profits have gone up extremely steeply, 94% increase in PAT. However, this includes a one-time gain also of I think close to 1100 crores, which was from the sale of their Protean EGOF stake. So that will have to be adjusted here to account for a normalized return. But all in all, they've had a very good year. What is of note here is that in NSE, up till the year 2025 or 2024 rather, NSE was having an unbridled market share in F&O, and they kind of had a 99% market share. So I have a graph for the market share for NSE also. Let me put that up so that we have an understanding of how uh, well was NSE covering the entire market. Right. So typically from a market share standpoint, NSE had almost a market share of 99% in the FNO segment and almost a 90% market share in the cash segment. Again, currency derivatives, it had a 95% plus share, which again goes to underline our thesis on NSE that once an exchange gathers momentum and people join and start using it, it is very difficult for any other party to kind of come and usurp market share from that particular exchange. So that's what has played out in NSE as well. But to break down this number, yeah, so like this is what I wanted to cover. NSE has a 92% market share in equity, a 99.8% market share in derivatives. BSE has 8% in equity cash and 0.0% in derivatives. How does it look as compared to BSE? So at a market price of 1900 versus BSE at 5300. Market cap stands at 475 versus at 72,000 crores. This is at a PE of almost 88, and this is at a PE of almost 57. Price to sale is 29, and price to sale is 45. But this doesn't give us a very good picture. What we would rather want to showcase you is another update which we were analyzing internally, and I will just put that up on the screen. Mhm. Yes. So I want to bring your attention to this portion of how NSE's revenue has grown. So one critical change which has happened in NSE's business model is the regulator has, SEBI, our regulator, has kind of found that a lot of retailers are losing money in the FNO space, and a lot of algo traders and larger players are kind of pulling in all of the money out. And therefore, to rationalize the kind of investments which is happening or the kind of people who are trading in the FNO segment, SEBI announced some cut downs and some clampdowns in the process of trading in FNO. So one was increase in stamp duty on FNO, increase in FNO charges, increase in the notional contract size which you can enter into via an FNO contract. And the largest or the most impactful change was to introduce one weekly expiry per exchange. So typically earlier your FNO contracts could expire every week for all of your indices. So for Nifty, Nifty 50, Next Nifty, Nifty Fin Nifty, Bank Nifty, all of these contracts could expire every week. But now the regulator has said that for one exchange, there can be only one contract which will expire weekly. Rest all contracts have to expire monthly only. And this has greatly reduced the kind of control which NSE had on the FNO segment, because other exchanges will typically start getting more traction because of lesser contracts available to kind of take a position on under the NSE header. And that's what we are seeing here. This is very critical for people who are holding NSE or planning to invest in NSE to understand. Transaction charges, which forms the largest portion of revenue for NSE, which is almost 2,800 crores out of the total top line of 4,000 crores. So it's almost 72% of its total revenue. While it has gone up 22% year on year, it has actually gone down 4% quarter on quarter. So Q3 24 versus Q2 FY25, they have actually lost 4% in terms of transaction charges. And this broadly shows that the FNO volumes might have taken a hit in the current quarter, but the impact is expected to be more pronounced going forward, because the FNO contracts were still live till early December. So it's just been 1 month in which the impact has featured out in Q3. So going forward, the impact on the transaction revenue piece may be higher. But what is of note here is this other segments, which is listing services, data center and co-location, data feed, index licensing, CNS, which forms the remaining, I think close to 1,000 odd crores of revenue, has all gone up very steeply year on year. So listing services has gone up by 60%, data center has gone up by 13%, index licensing is gone up by 39%, and CNS has gone up by a steep 83%. So why this is critical is, typically if you look at global exchanges, transaction revenue does not form a major chunk of their overall revenue. It is because those exchanges have diversified their revenue streams and get revenue from a lot more than purely transaction charges. And that ensures that your exchange is not just dependent upon the transactions that are happening on the exchange, but as a diversified revenue stream. So NSE also looks to be on a similar path, wherein as the financial markets mature, a larger portion of their overall revenue will come from other segments and will not be so dependent upon transaction charges. So if this 70% reduces over the next 2-3 years to 50%, and the rest of the services start contributing a lot more to the top line, it will essentially ensure that NSE as an organization is much more resilient as compared to what it is right now, as its dependency on transaction fees as a revenue breakup will go down. And this is very critical for people to understand, is because this uh, other segments to start firing for NSE is going to be extremely critical going forward, uh, because of the clampdowns in the kind of FNO contracts and the um options which is being imposed by the regulator. That being said, coming back to the updates. So, like we said, that the settlement of the NSE has been approved. So, 643 crore settlement has been approved against NSE. SEBI has closed the proceedings in on September 24, and this resolves the major hurdle for the NSE's IPO. Going forward, market is expecting the IPO to kind of hit sometime in the next 12 months. Next, we want to quickly cover Hexaware. So Hexaware was a company which we started identifying some 3.5 years back. So Hexaware was an IT company which gave digital solutions across 5-6 industries, largely banking, healthcare, and telecom. AI, sustainable exchange. And in 2020, Parent Private Equity, which was holding the majority stake in Hexaware, delisted Hexaware at a valuation of 3 billion, which was somewhere around 24,000 crores. Parallelly, this stake from Baring Private Equity was acquired by Carlyle Group, which is one of the other large PE funds in the world. And around 75-76% stake was acquired by Carlyle. Rest was between some management and some other investors. What we realized back in 2020, 2021, when we were looking at the company, was it was available at a dividend yield of almost 5%. And if I recall correctly, the price to earnings at that time was somewhere around 18 or 19. Typically, competition was at competition. By competition, I mean companies like Mindtree or Happiest Minds. They were all at a level of 55-60x. So we found a very decent gap in between its Hexaware's valuation and the valuation of its competitor firms. And we also felt that a PE firm typically invests for a period of 5 years, and therefore exit will be more or less certain in this case. So with that in mind, we kind of invested into Hexaware, and since then Hexaware has done phenomenally well. It has almost doubled in the last 3 years from our entry price. So we entered somewhere at around 400 levels. Sorry, it's actually 4x. So we entered at 400 rupees a share sometime in 2020, 2021. And post-split, currently it stands at 700, which means that pre-split it is at 1400. So a 400 rupee investment per share price is now at 1400 in less than 3.5 years, in which it has also given you a dividend of 15%. So almost 3.5-4% dividend yield for the last 3 years has been consistently being paid out by Hexaware. So again, this emphasizes on how at Altius we see companies. So we like companies which are large, which are cheaply valued. So you are getting them at a multiple which is much lower than a listed peer. There is a larger investor on the cap table in terms of a large VC or a large PE firm or a large known individual investor who can ensure that we have a way to exit in the next 3 to 5 years once the valuation realization happens. And we found all of these three factors to be there in Hexaware when we were evaluating back in 2020. And that's how we decided to invest into it. Why we are covering Hexaware today is because Hexaware is going for an IPO. The price band has now been set. The IPO is very, very close. They are issuing a total issue size of almost 9,000 crores. The price band is set at 700 crores. Largely, it is an OFS by CM Magnum Holdings, which is essentially the Carlyle Group, and the dates are obviously mentioned here. You can have a look. So this kind of helps us understand how Altius as a company evaluates opportunities, finds the right time, holds it out for the optimum period, and also decides when to kind of think about exiting an opportunity internally. Moving on to Metropolitan Stock Exchange. Metropolitan, as you would know, it's also one of the exchanges in India. Largely, it was an exchange which did not have any volumes. It had gone so bad for the exchange that it was about to drop below 100 crores in net worth, which is the bare minimum net worth which you have to maintain to retain an exchange license. And they had to do a rights issue at 1:1 for 1 rupee back in, I think, 2019 or 2018. And for the last 5.5, 6 years, the price for this company was hovering similar to the face value. So it's a face value 1 rupee company. And for the longest time, the price was somewhere around 1.5 to 1.75. Recently, what happened is there was a 238 crore capital infusion into the company through a private placement route. And Grow, which is one of the larger brokers, Zerodha and Share India Securities largely led this round. And this valuation was set at 1,200 crores. So this kind of gave a sudden boost to MSCI, and it started going up from that news event from 1.5 rupees, and it topped out somewhere at around 11 rupees in the absolute frenzy, I would say. So the valuation at that time surpassed somewhere around 7,000 crores. So what is our learning in MSCI is sometimes it makes sense to hold companies wherein there is an underlying business which, if invested in by the right people, can suddenly start performing. What was the other lesson with MSCI is that never get into market frenzy. Because what we saw is a lot of people after this news and started entering into the company at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rupees. And typically invest the primary infusion while it had happened at 1,200 crores, people were wanting to enter even at 6,000, 7,000 crore rupees market cap. So what rationalization needs to happen here is that you need to actually understand if just some people coming on board justifies a 5x increase in the price within a span of 3 weeks. We have been very vocal that, bringing an exchange back to life is no easy task. 3 people entering does provide a huge impetus. It makes it more likely that will happen, but it is not really that easy to kind of make this click. But that being said, if there are some companies wherein you want to take a bet on it suddenly starting to trigger and starting to fire on a long-term event, that can be one way to invest. But while we are doing that, we also have to be mindful at what valuation the uptick is considered to be a frenzy. And that's our larger learning in MSCI. So this is how MSCI increased. As you can see, from 22, the price stayed stable at 1.5, 2 rupees. And suddenly in July, it started going up when the news of this investment came about. And it jumped from 1.5 to 3 rupees. Going forward, it again stabilized. Somewhere around November, December, when the news got confirmed that there was an investment, it moved from this 2.5, 3 rupees zone to almost a 12 rupees zone within a span of 2-3 weeks itself. Next, we would quickly want to cover Hindustan Engineering Industries. So Hindustan Engineering Industries is a part of Hindustan Group, and it has 3 segments. One is engineering, one is jute and chemicals. The largest portion contributing to the revenue is the engineering, where it is largely making wagons for Indian Railways. So it makes wagons, steel castings, points and crossing, and railway rolling stock. Jute is somewhere around, I think, 150 to 200 crores, and chemicals is around 300 crores. So this 2200 crores is supply to Indian Railways. 150 200 is around jute, and around 300 crores is supply of chemicals. So overall, the company clocks around 2,800 crores top line in a year. The chairman of the company is Vikramaditya Modi. Now, why we started liking this company is, as you would have obviously seen, all railway stocks did really well over the last 2 years. So whether you take it as Ireda or Jupiter Wagons or Titagar or any railway stock for that matter, all have gone like 7x, 8x in the last 3, 4 years. Hindustan Engineering was a company which was doing well but was not getting any attention. And I'll tell you the kind of price rise which we have seen in this. Uh, if you look here, the current price for Hindustan Engineering is somewhere around 1700 rupees. Just, I think, a year and a half to 2 years back, this price was available at 300 rupees only. So in the last 3 years, in the last 2 years, it has actually already gone 5x, but still the company is available very cheap. Let's see how HEIL compares to its peers. So HEIL, like we said, it has a revenue of 2,700 crores. On this, it does an EBITDA of 300 crores and a PAT of 207 crores. On a 140 rupee EPS and 1700 price, it is priced at 12 times earnings and just 0.9 times sales. If you compare this to Titagar, which is one of the the comparable companies for HEIL, the PE is at around 42 times, almost 4 times that of HEIL, and the price to sale is almost 3.2 times, again almost 4 times that of Hindustan Engineering. When we started looking at the company, these ratios were much lower. It was available at absolute throwaway pricing. And since then, we've shared HEIL as an investment opportunity many times in our community. And we have written multiple notes on it, shared this detailed financials on emailers as well. So what we look at this company is, one, it is in a space wherein we feel that the order book is completely secured because Indian Railways is on a expansion spree. Vande Bharat coaches are being added, and therefore the growth and reliability of order book can be fairly certain for HEIL. Second, it's a company which is reporting decent jump in profits and revenue, and therefore the momentum is fairly strong. And thirdly, we like the valuation at which it is available. So 12 times earnings and 0.9 times sales is what Hindustan Engineering Industries is available in the market as of the moment. So this is what has happened. So 450 was the price recently. It has gone up to almost 1600. They recently got an order of almost $230 million for 4,500 wagons. The wagons are a larger order supply for 60,000 total wagons for the railways, and its P is substantially lower than if you compare it to Titagar and Jupiter. So that's on Hindustan Engineering. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer. So just kind of type out your queries on the on the chat, and we'll take it up on Hindustan Engineering. Another company which we wanted to introduce, and I think this a lot of people are already aware of, is Nayara Energies Limited. So Nayara Energies erstwhile was SR Oil of the SR Group, and once SR Group went bankrupt, this company got sold to multiple parties. So first, Rosneft, which is Russia's largest crude oil producer, had acquired this company, lock, stock, and barrel. And after Rosneft, this company was then owned by this was sold to a European trading concern called Trafigura Limited. And I think currently the larger stake is with Trafigura only. Now, why we wanted to look at Nayara as a company again goes back to the fact on how we look at companies wherein the growth is there are some triggers, and the valuation is abysmally low. So when we started looking at Nayara in somewhere around 2021, 2022, I recall the pricing was somewhere around 300 rupees a share. Currently, Nayara is available somewhere around 1800, 1900 a share. So typically in the last 3 years, the price has gone from 400 to almost 2000. So it's almost a 5x jump in the last 3.5, 4 years. So let's understand a little more about Nayara, and then we'll come to what made us look at Nayara 2, 3 years back, and why we still think that this is something which might do well. So Nayara has a refinery in Vadinar, which is India's second largest single-site refinery. It has an extensive network of fuel stations, almost 6,300 in numbers. It is supported by crude oil tanker terminal, water intake facilities, and multiple fuel power plants. They have their own port, which is located in Vadinar, Gujarat, and they have more than 58 supply locations spread across India. In terms of the market share, it has a 42% market share. The rest of it is largely held by RIL in the private space. So this is how the financials look like for Nayara. It had a revenue of almost 156 lakh crores. Yes, this is 1.56 lakh crores. That's how large the company is. It had an EBITDA of almost 20,000 crores on this, and it had a PAT of almost 12,000 crores last year, which was up 30% year on year, giving us a PE of EPS of 83 rupees. At a price of 1900 as on date, it is at a market cap of almost 3 lakh crores and is at a PE of almost 23 times. The price to sale for Nayara stands at 1.83x. So when we were again looking at it at a 400, 500 rupee level, we were getting Nayara at a price to earning multiple of 7x. So while there was some risk because the owner was not an Indian entity or a PE entity or a VC entity, but it was a global fuel producer, or it was a trading concern, we had some risks, but the valuation at entry which we were getting back then was phenomenally low, and therefore it was very unlikely that we could have gone wrong. If we would have gone wrong, we would have not made money, but I did not expect to lose money at all in such bets. And this again underlines what kind of companies we should typically look at. Companies wherein there is growth, company wherein there are triggers, and company wherein there is a huge valuation comfort available. So at 400 rupees a share, it was an absolute no-brainer to kind of evaluate this from a portfolio perspective. Currently, also the company is doing fairly well. Largely, market is expecting it to do decently well going forward also. But there is uncertainty on IPO because largely the holding structure is a little complicated for them. These are some updates on Nayara. They're into an expansion mode, adding almost 400 petrol pumps a year. So there will be almost 7,000 outlets by the end of the year. They are doing almost an 8 billion investment into the ethane cracker system at the Vadinar refinery. IPO is being said to come out in the next 2 to 3 years, but we are not sure on that. And in the last 2 years, it has made a lot of money through the Russian crude, which was available at a cheaper price because of the uh, trade ban from the NATO countries on importing Russian oil. So all of this combined has had made Nayara into a decent opportunity to kind of look at. Lastly, quickly covering AIF and PMS. So we at Altius used to get a lot of queries as to how can we help you in managing your money better on a long-term basis through a structured product. And therefore, we spent a lot of time understanding AIF and PMS as a product. In this journey, we spoke to almost, I think, 120 funds, over, I think, close to 60 fund managers. And we understood their thesis, the way of thinking, how they were working out. And we found interesting strategies by lesser known fund houses in both the PMS and the AIF segment. So PMS essentially allows you to invest a minimum of 50 lakhs, and this investment is held under your name only under the PMS structure. It is a structure which has been created under the SEBI's framework, and there you have to take a PMS license to be able to manage funds for an investor under this route. So this largely invests into the listed space. Now, what we find is there are certain PMSs who are doing unique strategies while investing. Some are extremely good with their picks in the small cap and the mid cap segment. For some, they have exposure to special situations. So they kind of find opportunities wherein there is a merger, a buyback, a reverse merger going on, and therefore they can lock in a 15-20% return very easily with an upside possible of another 15-20% going forward. So such instruments we have evaluated and we have created and worked out with fund managers to create a portfolio of some PMSs which can be interesting for you to look at. AIF is a larger ticket, so it is typically a minimum 1 crore investment, but it typically needs to be deployed over a period of 1 year, wherein you can go like 25 lakhs a quarter, or you can spread it out. There are three categories. Category one invests into startups, category two into private equity, and category three is typically into complex trading strategies like arbitrage and derivatives. So what we found with AIFs is we found interesting opportunities which we as retail investors or direct investors could not tap into. So what an AIF does is it allows you to invest into the QIB route or the anchor route in a lot of IPOs. So we found that there are some funds who specifically run an entire fund just to invest into IPOs under the anchor book allocation and the QIB allocations in either SMEs or on mainboard IPOs. And they were netting a phenomenal return year on year. So we had seen some funds which were clocking almost 30-35% year on year consistently, irrespective of how the market was behaving. So we again spoke to a lot of people, boiled down some opportunities into the AIF segment, which we feel have the potential to maybe generate between 25 to 35% year on year for the next 5-7 years. So these two products are for people who can typically put in a check of 50 lakh to 1 crore in a year and are wanting to see the wealth creation happen over the next 5-10 years in a very systematic, managed manner. If you are looking to get into this space and if you would want us to give you a more deeper intro, we have sent out a form on the chat. You can just click on that, fill in your details, and our respective team members will reach out to you and understand what your requirements are and maybe help you with some more insights into how this space can be helpful for you. So that was largely what we wanted to cover. Now I would want to take the next 10 minutes to kind of see if we can address some questions which people would have raised. As always, we will be going on in the queue. I will first quickly take 3-4 questions from the chat and then I would open up the queue. If you are looking to ask a question, please kindly raise your hand on the chat and we will come back to you. The first question on the chat is, what is the view on Polymer Tech considering a steep fall in its price? Is it still not a potential buy at this cheap valuation? So Anshul, typically Polymer Tech has, as you rightly said, it's gone, I think, almost 50%. So at the peak, it was almost 100-110 rupees a share pre-split, and now it is almost at 55-60. I think it has fallen more than that. Broadly on Polymer Tech, our views have been always consistent. The numbers look good, but there was some diciness as compared to the overall way the things were projected by the management. So we've never really been very comfortable with investing a large chunk into Polymer Tech, and we still maintain the same view because we do not have that visibility. Irrespective of the price fall, we are not sure how bad it can be. But purely on the numbers, it looks extremely cheap. But corporate governance is something which we cannot be complacent with. Mr. Noor Ahmed is asking, why does NSE take 6 months to credit? This has been answered on the chat, Mr. Noor, if you can kindly have a read. Is NSDL deal happening at Altius is what Mr. Sachin wants to know. So Sachinji, we had done very sizable blocks in NSDL for our clients last year. Post that, we've not gotten any good transaction in NSDL, and therefore right now there is no supply. For the people who have already invested or bought in that particular tranche, the transaction is almost going through. They are receiving the credits in the next 7 to 10 days. Next, Mr. SJ is asking, how is it to invest in MSCI? What's its futures? And I've just covered that as a part of the presentation. I hope it was answered. Sarav Mehta is asking, what are comparatively better opportunities to invest in the market? So I think, Sarav, broadly, that's what we wanted to cover as a part of the deck. So companies like Hindustan Engineering, Indophil Industries, Nayara Energies, these are companies wherein we find that there is a lot of valuation comfort and companies are growing decently well. Uh, then we have some companies which are in futuristic sectors like spray engineering, which are doing good work in the renewable space, and we expect them to do well over a long-term period. So these can be looked at from a opportunity perspective. Mr. Dugari Ala has some questions in context of NSE. Uh, Distribution of option volumes, and now in MSCI, where do you see earnings going from 25 to 28? So typically 25 to 28, that's a very nice question. Actually, I want to cover that. Thank you for asking that. So typically, we have done some working on how NSC's revenue has grown and will grow. What we understand is the previous 27-28% profit and top line growth will not continue for the next 3-4 years. It will probably be muted from 30% to some 6-7% for the next 2-3 years. It will not degrow, but it will be flattened by from 25 to 6-7. This is an internal estimate basis our understanding on how the options premium and the options volume will change. Do you see a shift in risk reward from BSC to MSCI instead of NSC? With the new SEBI chairperson coming in shortly, do you see SEBI's NOC for IPO coming through? IPO, I expect it to come through in the next 12 months, but obviously subject to it's a hearsay as of the moment. And shift in risk reward, again, MSCI, it would have been a value by somewhere around 2, 3, 4 rupees max, but beyond that, people have to be a little careful. BSC, again, markets are typically much more optimistic than we are, and therefore they factor in the growth even before we can think about doing it. So as you would have seen, BSC's price has already shot up significantly. It is almost at a 93x multiple. So I don't know how at what value does it start being overvalued, but that call will have to be taken. Jay is asking, is there any future for ICEX? ICEX just lost their exchange license because their net worth dropped below 100 crores. So I think it will be a little difficult for them to come back up. If possible, discuss PharmEasy IPO news. No update on PharmEasy from my side. Hexaware to apply. So Hexaware is a decent company. Now it is fairly valued. See, typically, our assumption is very clear. Once the IPO is almost there, then it is a company which is going to give you a normal return, but not a super normal return. And we are essentially trying to generate super normal returns here. Mr. Suri is asking a couple of questions. Are there any more surprises from SEBI? I am not expecting. Do you see the transaction charges growing organically for NSE over 5 years network effect? Yes, I think transaction charges does not meaningfully impact volumes. And that has been seen multiple times in multiple geographies with different exchanges also. So because you take a increase of 5%, 10% in transaction charges, I don't think typically people reduce their trading volumes by a lot. Do you see BSC being continuously favored by the regulators? I'm not sure if BSC is being favored, but yeah, NSC was maybe a little on the wrong side, but typically I think that is now broadly through. What do you see the ideal P of BSC NSE now? What do you see the listed price of NSE? How many years from now? So I think typically to answer both of these questions, an exchange business, if you see globally also, so if you compare it to CMEI, which is Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is the closest peer to NSE because CMEI also draws majority of its value through transaction revenue. We feel that anywhere between a 30 to 35x multiple is very comfortable on a FY26 earning. And NSE is at a reasonably is at a similar valuation to that right now. BSC, I am not very comfortable with the valuation, but we'll have to see on how that plays out. Mr. Munaga, HEIL IPO, there is no update like we had covered in the slide. We do not have an understanding on when the IPO will come. Great. I think broadly we have covered most questions. What I'll do is now I'll just open up the floor and maybe because I want to speak to people. So opening up the queue. So Mr. Satya Surya, if you would want to kindly unmute and
Sir, thank you, sir, for giving us the opportunity. Since I missed the majority of the presentation, can I get access to this deck, whatever you said, a recording of this session?
surely we can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Vamsi, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, Abhishek. Thanks you. Thank you. What is your view on the BLSX and Apollo Energy? I think recently we heard one news about that Apollo Energy. Okay, is it willing to work in current scenario now?
Okay. So on BLSX, sir, I have no view because there is no data available on BLSX. So I don't think I have even seen a full year annual report for BLSX. So without data, I am in no position to comment on. So what was the other one?
Apollo Energy.
Apollo Energy. Okay, so Apollo Energy, the good part is that it is doing well in the renewable space. It is getting good projects in the EPC space, and promoters are largely decent. Group is good. The cons twofold. One, I am unclear on what revenue comes from what business. So as you would know, Apollo Green was earlier Apollo International, which had trading and textiles as a larger business rather than renewable CPC. And then they renamed the company to Apollo Green. But till date, we are not very clear on how much revenue comes from what. And therefore, I am unclear on what I am buying as a company. So therefore, I am again not in a very good position to comment on Apollo Green. One thing which I disliked was typically the number of fundraisers for the company was very, very frequent. And recently they announced some 4,000 crores of fundraise. But when I looked into the companies which were putting the money in, their net worth was very, very minuscule as compared to the kind of money that they were trying to commit into the company. So I'm a little unclear on how and what is happening in the company, but yeah. Um, Mr. Shikhar, if you want to go ahead. Mm, okay. Mr. Gajanan Rathi.
Hello.
Yeah, hi
Yeah.
Shikharji.
Yeah. Hi, Abhishek. I wanted to know your view on RDC Concrete, OYO, and what's your feeling about the upcoming HDV financial IPO?
Mhm.
And lastly, a little bit feedback on the website. So earlier version of your website was quite good, and the website used to get loaded quite easily. And from past 1 month or so, the website takes a lot of time to get loaded, and
Mhm.
also the prices aren't available like they were available previously. So if we can arrange to get it back to the previous version or something like that.
Sure. Sure. I'll take it one by one. So firstly on RDC is a company which we really like. I think they have done a phenomenal job in the ready mix segment. They have grown very fast with the backing of Inframart and with the network effects that it gets because of Hela Infra's overall business. I expect it to do really well in the next 3-4 years also. I think the challenge is that RDC cannot be transferred anymore, but and the IPO has been delayed. So earlier the company was planning to IPO in 25 itself, but now from what I hear, the management wants to do an IPO for the parent company, which is Hela Infra, and therefore this might be delayed. But other than that, personally, I really like the business. I hope that they will keep growing in the next 3-4 years by at least 30-35% year on year. Coming next to Oyo. Oyo at a current valuation is around 4 billion. They are expecting to close this year at almost 700 crore PAT. At 4 billion, it is almost 32,000 crores. On 32,000 crores and a 700 crore PAT, it is 45 times earnings. Uh, a platform business at 45 times is not bad to invest into. But the only problem which I find in OYO is the change between FY 23, 24, and 25. There is no organic growth in the company. So it is not growing on its own. It is growing either by acquisitions or it is improving profitability by trimming costs. So this can be done for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. But unless your business grows organically, there is a innate demand for your product. I'm not sure how you will be able to give us sustained long-term performance. But typically, people are expecting IPO to happen within the next 12 months. So I think it's a short 12 to 18 months. So it's a short holding period on all. Coming to your third question on the website, the issue related to speed, I will connect with you separately to understand where is the issue with speed, because that should not be there. Uh, on the other one, the pricing availability on the website, we are understanding and speaking to regulators and our legal team to understand what we can show and how much we can show. Because there was recently a notice from SEBI, a press note from SEBI, a general press note, which said that platform should not appear as an exchange essentially, and therefore we had taken down the prices to be absolutely compliant with anything that the regulator wants, and thus we are trying to work and understand. So I cannot promise when the prices will be up. We are trying to see if it can be bought back, but speed issue, I will definitely get in touch with you and we'll get that resolved.
Okay.
So
And there was another question about SDB Finance IPO.
HDB Finance, I find it to be overvalued. So I mean, yeah, straightforward. I think the pricing is a little out
Okay.
there. I would not want to invest at such prices.
Oh, okay. Thank
Okay. Mr. Monaga, if you want to go ahead.
Sir, what is the current now API Holdings valuation?
So you want the current market cap?
Yes, no, sir. Not what is the valuation means how many $billion in the overall company valuation?
Yeah, that's the market cap, right? Or the
Yes,
price per share?
yes.
I meant to ask, are you looking for the price per share or the market cap?
Market cap.
Market cap, sir, I think it should be close to, I think some 8.5, 9,000 crores.
9,000. Sir,
But this will be
recently-
subject to some changes in the recent ESOP allocation. So this, I think 9,000 crores was after their last rights issue.
recently some news, I listened to some news API Holdings and Pharmacy and the IPO news last 1 month back. Why not up increase in this the stock moment?
So because I don't think the news pieces are very concrete. I think once there is more concrete news and there is more clarity on what the pricing of the valuation, what the valuation of the IPO will be, then there might be some movement.
But recent update to in February also, board meeting is will come update the CEO. Pharmacy CEO.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Okay, sir.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in this platform, have any single shareholding? Can I buy single share of that company?
But generally,
your
you
platform.
invest minimum 10K in most companies. Single share, I'm not so sure.
In other platform are there, sir. That's all I am requesting.
The single share is not possible. I mean, if you want to buy one share of OYO, it doesn't make sense to transfer that because cost of transmitting is very large. So typically, we have set a minimum investment of 10 to 15,000 per script generally.
Sir,
Okay, fine.
now Metropolitan Stock is a good investment for right now, sir.
So that's what I just covered. I think we'll have to be conscious of the entry price. Typically, the private placement had happened around 1,200 crores in cap, but currently it's almost at around, I think 4,500 crores. So it's almost 3.5, 4 times the entry price for the larger firms. It'll still be a risky bet in my opinion because, like I said, bringing back volumes on an exchange is not a very easy task. When it happens, it gives you very high returns. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
But in this Metropolitan Stock Exchange in SEBI website showing registration will not updated.
So I didn't get you.
In the SEBI.com in website, Metropolitan Stock Exchange license not updated recently. I checked it.
Sir, I am not aware of that. If you can share me where you are checking that on a WhatsApp message, I can check in.
Okay, SEBI website, SEBI.com.
Where exactly, what the exact link or a screenshot of where you are checking, I would
Okay.
to have
Okay, okay. I will I will update your executive.
Perfect. Sure, sir. Thank you. Mr. Amog, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, hi Abhishek. Thank you for the presentation. It was very clear and very targeted. So I just wanted to understand. I got into private equity since last 3 months, and the kind of stories you talked about, P7X, something like that. Those stories are, I think, far and few right now. So do you think like private equity is also kind of like next 2 3 years it's going to be muted and it's going to is it going to be difficult to see the kind of returns that we saw last few years in the
Sir,
future?
this is a space, and why I'll tell you why we are always every year able to find 3, 4 opportunities where we find value. It is because there are 5,000 listed companies or 6,000 listed companies, and there are 5 lakh unlisted companies. So the universe available to us to find some mispriced opportunities wherein we are fairly conservative in terms of valuation and still we expect growth to come in and IPO to happen. We need to find just 3 or 4 opportunities a year, which is typically decent. And that we have been able to consistently do year on year for the last so many years. So even now that there are 3, 4 opportunities which look decent from a gain perspective, from a valuation perspective, and from an entry price perspective. So, like even if you say look at HEIL, or even if say look at Endofil or Spray Engineering, all of these companies are where either you have a lot of valuation comfort or you have a lot of comfort on the segment which they are in, and you are expecting them to still do better in the still do very good in the next 3, 4 years. So such companies, even if the market is bad, you will still make money if things go the way you had planned or you had foreseen. You will make some serious return. So that's how we look at it. Being very small when we are wrong, and if we are right, then we go big or we gain big. That's typically our strategy.
Fair enough. Thank you. And so I just wanted to talk to you about the AIF and the PMS thing. So I think we can do it offline once you're available.
Absolutely.
We can plan a conversation. Thanks.
If you could just kindly fill the form, so the team who's looking into it will absolutely get in touch with you, and we'll schedule a G meet or something for that as well.
Okay. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Nilesh ji, if you would want to go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, hi.
Uh, I've been invested with you guys for more than 2 years now,
Right,
and the experience is good.
right.
I've invested on other platforms as well, so I have compared the journey. So it's
Correct.
really good. I've been invested on in Exigo and Five Star and even Boat right now.
Beautiful.
So still holding and got good returns. So yeah, it's good. I do have few questions, but for
Sure,
you.
sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. One is regarding Polymatic. I
Yeah,
want to know more about this because I've been hearing for 1 year now that they are planning for IPO, but the valuations were too high. In last 1 year, it almost doubled. So is it good right now? This at this point, the valuation wise, and any news on the IPO? And the other question is on taxation part. So I've been holding for 2 years. Uh, in Boat and Exigo. Exigo is now listed. So how is the taxation going to be for Exigo? Or
sure.
if I plan to sell Boat, how will be the taxation for that?
I'll cover that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So sir, on Polymer Tech, I think numbers wise कंपनी बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. अगर आप सिर्फ टॉप लाइन बॉटम लाइन ग्रोथ मल्टीपल देखोगे तो सब अच्छा है. उस बेसिस पे तो नहीं इन्वेस्ट करना बहुत बड़ा मुश्किल है उस कंपनी में. लेकिन चैलेंज इतना ही है कि इन पॉलीमर टेक देयर इज अ लिटिल unclear vibes from the management. It is not very clear who's running the show. I do not seem to figure out if they have a very corporate team available for a company which is doing that kind of a business. I have not found any good banker involved in the company as of now. Their auditors have recently resigned. So it was a good audit firm. So whenever auditor resignation happens, it is in my opinion, it is a red flag. Because typically auditor resign नहीं करता है. मतलब आप typically उनके साथ engage करके you are able to solve things out and then you are able to kind of make things happen. But the fact that they've actually resigned is slightly a red flag in my opinion. तो प्योर नंबर्स बढ़िया है, बट जो कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस बोल लीजिए या कंफर्ट विद द मैनेजमेंट बोल लीजिए या प्रोफेशनलिज्म इन द कंपनी, वहाँ मुझे थोड़ा डिस्कम्फर्ट है पर्सनली.
How about the management, the promoters, are they having any litigation on them? And any news on that? Any information?
सर ऐसा तो कुछ आई हैव नॉट हर्ड. I don't think so. वैसा it's nothing is critical of that nature, because उतना कुछ critical आता तो we would have been kind of aware of that. So nothing major out of that, or at least nothing in the public forum for sure.
Okay. How about the taxation part? Can you brief on that?
Sure. So the taxation now in unlisted and listed is 12.5% on long term in both cases. Only difference is listed में holding period 1 साल का है, 1 year है, and unlisted में holding period 2 years का है. So on say your boat investment or on your Exigo investment, if you have crossed 2 years and you are selling, in that case, in both cases आपका 12.5% on your gains. आपने 100 रुपए में खरीदा, 200 रुपए में बेचा या 300 रुपए में बेचा, जो आपका गेन का अमाउंट है 100 रुपए 200 रुपए जो भी होता है, उस पे 12.5% का आपको खर्चा लगेगा.
Okay, so it doesn't matter कि मैं अनलिस्टेड में 2 साल होल्ड किया और लिस्टेड में 6 महीने ही होल्ड किया हूँ.
नहीं, वो आपका टोटल होल्डिंग पीरियड कैलकुलेट हो जाएगा, बिकॉज आपका डे ऑफ परचेज और डे ऑफ सेल के बीच में अगर 2 साल क्रॉस हो जा रहा है तो आपको लॉन्ग टर्म का बेनिफिट मिल जाएगा.
Okay. Thank you for the
थैंक यू.
details.
राजेश जी, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the NCDX and Delta Galaxy. What is your view on that?
Okay. So, sir, NCDX again, it is a similar story. Exchange business है, फंडा ये है कि एग्री कमोडिटीज का मार्केट बड़ा होना चाहिए. मेटल कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है, बट एग्री कमोडिटीज इंडिया में अभी टेक ऑफ नहीं किया है. क्यों नहीं किया है, आई एम नॉट श्योर. आई वाज एक्सपेक्टिंग NCDX टू बी मच लार्जर देन व्हाट इट इज राइट नाउ, बट इट हैज नॉट हैपेंड. बट पीपल आर एक्सपेक्टिंग दैट कि अगर एग्री कमोडिटीज में वॉल्यूम आएगा तो NCDX के आसपास ही आएगा. So can be something which you would want to take a bet if you are positive on the space. As of the date, financials don't support an investment. आज के दिन बैलेंस शीट या P&L ऐसा नहीं है जिसको देख के आपका इच्छा करेगा कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट करने का. But potentially it can be something which turns out well. And what was the other company? Sorry, which you had asked?
Delta Galaxy.
डेल्टा गैलेक्सी सर, मुझे थोड़ा और रिसर्च करना पड़ेगा. मुझे ऑफ द टॉप ऑफ माय हेड नंबर्स याद नहीं है. सो
नंबर्स तो बहुत अच्छे आ रहे हैं, मतलब डबल ट्रिपल डबल हर साल डबल उसके. अभी लास्ट टाइम 74 करोड़ था, अभी 154 करोड़ का रिजल्ट आया है.
ओके,
सो प्रॉफिट इज एवरी ईयर डबलिंग एक्चुअली.
ओके, देन लेट मी ट्राई एंड गो थ्रू इट वंस एंड आई विल गेट बैक टू यू.
Okay, so NCDX, what do you suggest? Like, it can be a good bet, like we have seen in the NSE journey.
Sir, NCDX can be a long-term
Right.
sort of a lottery ticket. Again, पैसा इसमें टूटना नहीं चाहिए, because valuation भी कोई बहुत महंगा नहीं है. And agri commodities में मुझे लगता है the only trigger why it can happen faster than why it has happened before is B2B supply chain in food is getting organized very fast. By the
Right.
incoming of a lot of startups, Jumbo Tail,
Hmm.
Yacht, all of these guys. So they have now ensured कि farmer से भी जो purchase हो रहा है वो cash में नहीं होके कच्चे में नहीं होके it is all through app and it is through bank transactions and typically larger intermediaries are in there in place who
Yeah.
do understand the logic of hedging their uh, purchases and sales in the agricultural space.
Right. So if
अगर
government will do something, there could be a possibility.
एब्सोल्युटली
Possible.
एब्सोल्युटली इसमें ट्रिगर्स का हम वेट करेंगे कि कब ट्रिगर आता
Right.
है ट्रिगर आएगा तो ये बड़ा हो सकता है
एंड
बट
इसमें अभी रिसेंटली ये
बड़े
भी हुआ है कि ये लोग अपना फुटप्रिंट इंक्रीज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं ईरान में, नेपाल में और कुछ और कंट्रीज में भी. हाँ.
करेक्ट वो न्यूज आ रहे हैं जी जी
राइट.
सही बात
ओके. ओके. थैंक यू.
परफेक्ट है
So one thing I have a question, like, on the HDB Financial, I have some shares. So at this
ठीक है
moment, you suggest to, like, just keep a hold for some time, or should
फिर आप
sell out?
उसको प्योर प्योर बजाज फाइनेंस से कंपेयर करेंगे तो आपको महंगा लगेगा
नहीं,
अब
बजाज
अपना
फाइनेंस से कंपेयर नहीं कर रहा, बट ये देख रहा हूँ कि मतलब अभी रखना चाहिए यहाँ से या बेच के
भाई
निकल जाना चाहिए.
भाई मेरे ओपिनियन में सर जब भी हम कोई कंपनी लेना है बेचना है या होल्ड करना डिसाइड करते हैं वी लुक एट ग्रोथ एंड वी लुक एट मार्केट वैल्यूएशन
हम्म.
ग्रोथ एचडी का इज लेसर देन बजाज एंड वैल्यूएशन इज हायर
हम्म.
so
ओके.
personally I find less sense in holding on
ओके. ठीक है. ओके. So you have a similar non concept on the HDB Financial as well. HDB and Hero Moto दोनों है ना, अलग अलग.
हीरो फिनकॉन
हाँ, राइट. आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द हीरो फिनकॉर्प. सो
अगेन सर दोनों में सेम लॉजिक है आप
ओके.
सिर्फ उनका पैट का ग्रोथ रेवेन्यू का ग्रोथ और एयूएम का ग्रोथ देख लीजिए पैरेलली उनका प्राइस टू बुक वैल्यूएशन आप बजाज फाइनेंस या हीरो फिनकॉर्प में कोई भी टू व्हीलर फाइनेंसिंग जो करता है उससे कंपेयर कर लीजिए आपको क्विकली एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग डेवलप हो जाएगा कि इसमें पैसा बन सकता है कि नहीं अब यहाँ से देखिए हम 10-15% की बात नहीं कर रहे उसके लिए अनलिस्टेड में लगाने का कोई मतलब नहीं है
राइट.
तो 10-15% बनाने के लिए तो फिर लिस्टेड में ही कर लेंगे सर वो तो फिर एफडी में भी निकल जाएगा
राइट. जैसे हीरो मोटो में मेरा पैसा डबल हो गया तो मैं निकल सकता हूँ यहाँ से.
हाँ भाई मैं बता रहा हूँ कि जहाँ पे पैसा बन गया अब लग रहा है वैल्यूएशन ऑलमोस्ट आ गया है तो 10% के लिए रुकने का सेंस कम बनता
नहीं
है
बनता है.
दैट इज माय ओपिनियन
ओके, गॉट इट. ठीक है, थैंक यू.
Perfect. I think there are still some hands, but in cognizance of time, we have been there for an hour, 15 minutes almost. So I would like to kind of pause the call here for today. And if there is some questions which I've not been able to answer, please drop me a text on WhatsApp, or I think most of you have my direct number also. Kindly please pick up the phone and call me. I will be more than happy to have a chat and looking forward to doing more such sessions and answer more such interesting questions. I personally am enriched every time that I have such calls because I get such insightful questions. So thank you for joining in. Going forward, we'll also be introducing a lot of guests in our webinars. So our idea is that every alternate webinar, we will get some fund manager or some investor to share his insights on certain topics. That is a new format that we are trying to work on. So I hope that that enriches our entire investing journey, which we are trying to make a little more thoughtful and a little more peaceful.
Sir, one quick question. Just
जी
one.
जी सर बताएं.
General, I picked up multiple tranches of NSC. The bonus
Yeah.
shares and everything has come, and you are aware of it.
Yeah.
And then, do you think it's a good thing to switch to some other unlisted? Because I think because you have some wonderful picks. Actually, this is only my second call. Actually, I think I'm liking it. I think one of the investors also was saying that his experience with you guys is excellent. So maybe because again, rightly, incidentally, you were saying just one sentence before that to make 10 to 15%, you go to listed. Why the hell you want to be in unlisted? So everything is coming together. So what's your quick advice, sir? Just shall I take out some of the? I own a decent quantity of NSC. Yeah.
I'm aware, sir. Sir, largely देखिए NSE में no stock price. We believe no stock price can grow faster than its earnings growth, right?
Yeah.
सो अभी तक एनएससी 25-30% पे बढ़ रहा था क्योंकि उसका पैट और टॉप लाइन भी 25-30-40% पे बढ़ रहा था. गोइंग फॉरवर्ड मार्केट सेंसस की बोलता है कि टॉप लाइन तो 10% से ऊपर बढ़ना ईयर ऑन ईयर मुश्किल है. प्रॉफिट हो सकता है बढ़ जाए बिकॉज एफिशिएंसी माइट कम इन, सम रैशनलाइजेशन इन कॉस्ट माइट हैपन बिकॉज इस साल उन्होंने कॉस्ट एफिशिएंसी निकाली है. 60% कॉस्ट एफिशिएंसी हैज गॉन अप. So agar that happens, then profit still might grow by 15%, but top line 10 से 12% से ऊपर grow करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. तो अब क्या है कि आपको मे बी रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन थोड़ा मॉडरेट करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज आज तक जिस ग्रोथ को हम एनएससी से देखते हुए आ रहे थे, अब उस ग्रोथ पाथ पे शायद नहीं जा पाए.
ओके.
बट लार्जर पिक्चर यहाँ पे सर ऐसा है कि इंडिया में अभी भी फाइनेंशियल पेनिट्रेशन नहीं है. अगर आप देखें आज के दिन भी हम सिर्फ इक्विटी पे ही काम करते हैं एक्सचेंज में. बॉन्ड मार्केट डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट, करेंसी मार्केट डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट, रीट्स प्रैक्टिकली डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट. तो कुछ भी डीमेटेरियलाइजेशन एंड फाइनेंशियलाइजेशन अभी हुआ ही नहीं है. अब ये चीजें जब फाइनेंशियलाइज होंगी, सर रियल एस्टेट आप सोचिए कितना बड़ा मार्केट है और इतना बड़ा एक सेगमेंट खुल सकता है अगर वन डे द गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड्स कि भाई रियल एस्टेट को एक्सचेंज पे ट्रेड करना अलाउड कर देते हैं. There are so many ways it can happen. REITs and all can be very, very large as it is in other developed and mature geographies.
Okay, got it.
तो अगर आप लार्जर व्यू लेके चल रहे हैं कि हाँ इंडिया फाइनेंशियलाइज होगा, तो ठीक है सर. देखिए 10 साल भी और होल्ड करने में मेरे हिसाब से यू विल नॉट गो रॉन्ग. बट हो सकता है फॉर द नेक्स्ट 2-3 years योर रिटर्न माइट नॉट बी एज steep as it was for the last 3-4 years. That is my only submission.
Thank you so much. You answered my question beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Abhishek sir,
Thank you everyone for joining in. प्रशांत जी, आप मुझे प्लीज कॉल पे ले लेंगे तो बेटर होगा. I typically want to end at 1 hour 15 minutes because beyond that people get a little jittery. So call me anytime, sir. Just after the call, I'm happy to speak and address whatever question is there. Right? Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Take care. Good day.